the paradox of wealth. Imagine standing in the heart of ancient Rome. The marble streets are lined with villas, their floors shimmering with mosaics, their fountains splashing crystal-clear water. Banquets overflow with roasted meats, wines imported from the far reaches of the empire, and jewels glitter in torchlight. Yet just a few steps away, beggars stretch out their hands, slaves toil under the hot sun, and soldiers march to their deaths in distant wars. Rome was the wealthiest empire of its time, yet it was also a society haunted by inequality, greed, and insatiable desire. And in this world of extremes lived Lucius Annaeus Seneca, philosopher, playwright, advisor to emperors, and one of the richest men of his age. But here's the paradox. Despite his wealth, Seneca spent his life warning against the dangers of riches. He argued that true wealth is not found in gold or possessions, but in simplicity, self-control, and freedom from endless craving. Today, in a world where materialism and consumer culture dominate, Seneca's words feel sharper than ever. Wealth in Rome, a world of extremes. To understand Seneca's view, we must first understand the Rome he lived in. The Roman elite flaunted their wealth through extravagant banquets, villas filled with marble statues, and private armies. Gold and silver poured in from conquered lands. Senators and emperors competed not only in politics but in displays of luxury. Seneca himself was no stranger to wealth. As a statesman, tutor, and advisor to Emperor Nero, he acquired vast estates, mansions, and a fortune so large that even his critics accused him of hypocrisy when he wrote about the dangers of riches. Yet Rome's wealth came at a cost. Millions lived in poverty. Grain shortages and plagues regularly devastated the poor. Slaves built the luxury of the few. The pursuit of wealth was not just an individual desire, but a societal addiction, one that fueled corruption and violence. In such a world, Seneca's teachings about simplicity and true riches were radical, and still are today. Seneca's philosophy. What is true wealth? Seneca, as a Stoic philosopher, believed that external possessions are never the measure of a person's worth. Wealth, luxury, fame, and status, all these are what Stoics called indifference. They do not make us good or bad. They can be used wisely or foolishly, but they should never be mistaken for happiness. One of Seneca's most famous lines captures this perfectly. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. This strikes at the heart of the problem. Poverty is not simply about lacking money. It is about being enslaved by endless desire. A man with little but who feels content is richer than a millionaire who is never satisfied. For Seneca, true wealth comes from self-sufficiency, autarkia, the ability to be content with what is enough. He often reminded his students to reduce their desires rather than increase their possessions. Seneca's own life. A test of philosophy. Critics often point out that Seneca himself was enormously wealthy. How then could he credibly preach simplicity? Was he a hypocrite? The answer lies in how Seneca approached his fortune. While he did accumulate wealth, partly through politics, partly through inheritance, and partly through lending, he repeatedly emphasized that wealth is not evil in itself. What matters is one's relationship to it. Seneca wrote that wealth is like a tool, useful if used wisely, dangerous if it controls you. He himself practiced voluntary periods of poverty, deliberately living with little food and rough clothing, to remind himself that he could endure hardship and that luxury was never guaranteed. In one letter he advised, Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, "Is this the condition I feared?" This exercise, he argued, frees us from fear. If you can live simply, you are never enslaved to wealth. Stoic tools, how to be truly rich. Seneca did not just criticize greed, he offered tools for living a life of true riches. Let's break down the main ones. 1. Simplicity in living. Seneca encouraged reducing unnecessary desires. If bread, water, and shelter can sustain life, why endlessly chase luxury? Simplicity clears the mind, strengthens the body, and fosters gratitude. 2. Freedom from craving. A man who craves is never free. Wealth becomes a chain. But the one who can say, "I have enough," becomes master of himself. 3. Voluntary poverty. Practicing discomfort makes us resilient. By occasionally denying ourselves luxury, we reduce fear and increase inner strength. 4. Wealth is a test, not a goal. Wealth can be used for good, to support family, to help the poor, to fund learning. But if it becomes the goal of life, it corrupts the soul. 5. Gratitude for the present. Rather than measuring life by what we lack, Seneca taught us to treasure what we already have. Gratitude is itself a form of wealth. Lessons for modern times. Why Seneca matters today. Fast forward 2,000 years. The Roman Empire is gone, but the obsession with wealth remains. Today, wealth takes new forms: bank accounts, designer brands, luxury cars, digital assets, status symbols on social media. Yet the hunger for more is the same. The modern world praises millionaires and billionaires as if they were gods. But alongside this, mental health struggles, burnout, and dissatisfaction are at record highs. Seneca's words cut through this noise. He reminds us that true riches cannot be bought. You can own the world and still feel poor if your desires are unending. Conversely, you can own little and live richly if you know how to value life itself. Seneca's key quotes on wealth. Here are some of his most powerful reflections. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. A wise man is content with what he has, no matter how little. Wealth is the slave of a wise man and the master of a fool. Each of these captures the Stoic approach. Possessions are tools, but character is treasure. Closing reflection. The treasure within Seneca lived in a world of splendor and corruption, wealth and poverty, power and danger. He himself had riches, power, and influence. Yet he constantly reminded himself and others that none of it was secure. Wealth could vanish in a moment. Fortune is fickle. What remains, he argued, is character. The only true riches are those of the soul. Wisdom, virtue, discipline, gratitude. So the question Seneca leaves us with is this: are you pursuing riches that enslave you or wealth that frees you? If you can reduce your desires, practice simplicity, and find contentment with what you already have, you are, in Seneca's words, richer than the kings of the earth.